Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming on. So I've got an update for you guys on this pretty big severe weather outbreak that is another multi-day severe weather outbreak that's unfolding across the Central Plains today. And this is going to carry into tomorrow. I think tomorrow is going to be the higher threat of severe weather today. We also do have Hurricane Adrian and Hurricane Beatrice just off the coast of western Mexico. Now, I think Beatrice is actually scraping against the western coast of Mexico, so it's looking like Adrian's going to have a little bit more time to, develop into a stronger hurricane. But for now, we're looking at, right now the radar for across the country, so you can see that right now we have our storm located right here in the Central Plains. Now, this has been plowing through just after that dericho we had yesterday. That was a pretty devastating dericho that brought a lot of damage due to those damaging wind gusts yesterday. So very, very intense to see that. We also do have a cluster of thunderstorms that's been moving down into parts of northern Georgia and parts of northwestern North Carolina. So we're going to be talking about all of this in today's update. Okay, so we're going to be moving on to our alerts right now. And so once we get here, you can see that we do have actually a lot of air quality alerts out here. You can see that, you probably know already that these Canadian wildfires have been causing the air quality to go so, it's been so bad lately that, all these states have been included in air quality alerts, like, Wisconsin, all of Michigan, all of Indiana, a lot of Ohio, pretty much all of the Northeast, not including Maine, parts of New Hampshire, and, I think that's New Hampshire, yeah, and also parts of Massachusetts. But you see New York State, all of New York State, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delmarva, and also parts of Kentucky and West Virginia. So it's going to be very, very intense for the next few days. But all this smoke, it's been like a ring of smoke, or I shouldn't say ring of smoke, but an area of smoke that's been flowing down into the northern U.S., especially the northeastern U.S. So you guys got to watch out for that. Those very, very dangerous conditions. And then we do have a new pattern that has changed here. So we used to be seeing, kind of just a regular jet stream across the central part of the country. But then one thing that we did see, which was rare, is that we saw that the Omega block, or the heat dome, it actually broke apart, and that allowed all these storms to move up into the northeast. Now, we do have another heat dome that this is now called the Ring of Fire. Our new pattern is called the Ring of Fire. So we have a very, very intense area of heat, and this is a very, very it's so intense that you see those above average temperatures in this area, that we call it the Ring of Fire, because the temperatures are just blistering hot out there. You guys are in the 110s for some of you in this excessive heat warning, but I mean, man, is it really, really blazing out there. But if you went down south, you would definitely notice that it's abnormally very, very hot. But this is going to mean that more of these severe storms are going to be tracking more northward, just because they're not, because severe storms, when they get hit by this very, very intense heat that just has no moisture, they really just fall apart. So all the moisture is right now surging towards Florida. So we could definitely see a lot of moisture coming into Florida, resulting in some flooding rainfall, and then moving up into the northeast. So one thing that we could see, though, is that if we have a good enough storm system that moves through the Ohio Valley into the northeast, it could collide with these winds that are going to be pushing that moisture really far up in the northeast, and we could see a lot of severe weather right in this exact area. So we've got to watch out for that. Again, we obviously don't know. We can't tell just by looking at the alerts and then obviously the SBC, but we could definitely see a major pattern change resulting in that kind of pattern. But we could definitely see some very, very active weather out here in the west as well. We have excessive heat warnings down into parts of Southern California, areas west of the Sierras, not quite to the coastline. You guys closer to the coast are just in a heat advisory for now. But I feel like the farther south you go, the more hot it's going to get. And obviously, once you get into Arizona, western Arizona only, eastern Arizona, you guys are pretty much fine with the heat. It's gonna get pretty hot out there, but you guys shouldn't be too bad. But excessive heat warnings for also parts of looks like this is Arkansas and then parts of Louisiana, a lot of Mississippi. So you guys in Mississippi, every one of you got to be ready. For power outages. I know it's crazy, but the heat can get so bad that the power can actually go out, and that's really really not good. So what you need to hydrate. You need a lot of fans out in your house. So if you don't have AC, that's going to be a problem. So go to Costco or just some store nearby that has a convenience store that has a bunch of like fans and stuff, and just get something to cool you down, because temperatures in the 110s out here is not good. So do not go outside until it gets back down into the 90s and then hopefully the 80s. But this goes into parts of western Tennessee only, and then also close to the boot heel of Missouri and parts of southern Illinois. So you guys gotta watch out for tons of areas out here. You guys got to watch out for this blistering heat. But most of it is going to be down here in the southeast. I think off to the west, you should be a little bit more, safe. But even into parts of northern Missouri and more, central and a little bit less southern Illinois, you still do have that heat, but you're in a heat advisory. So the National Weather Service is kind of telling you guys that you shouldn't have too much heat to deal with. But I mean, man, is it going to be a crazy day out there? Sorry, my screen glitched. That was pretty long. But you do also have a small flood watch out here for parts of southeastern Wyoming and stretching into parts of western Nebraska. So watch out for some flooded roads out there. So we're going to be moving on to our current temperatures today, and we're just going to be showing you guys kind of how hot it can really get. So you'd see that based off of this, you'd be like, oh, it's not too bad. He's probably just joking. You see 80 degrees out here, but this is just in the morning. This was as of 8 a.m. this morning, so it takes a long time you have a long time to get these temperatures up into the hundreds. So what we see, though, as we get into the afternoon hours, it's probably going to be around 2 p.m. You're already into the lower hundreds down here into parts of northern Florida, parts of southern Mississippi, and a lot of Louisiana. So these pinks you see, these are in the very extreme upper 90s and the lower hundreds. So it's going to be blistering heat out there already by 2 p.m. Then by 8 p.m., you guys near the Sierras are going to get pretty hot. You see these intense pinks, like these bright pinks. I mean, I know it doesn't show up here, but I mean, 108 degrees out here. It's crazy. 108. And then if you go even further north up here, this white and pink, this is like 110 to 115 degrees. So it is going to be absolutely blistering out there, guys. But the northwestern U.S., you guys are going to be pretty much above average, except for this little area out here west of the Rockies, I guess. But you see here in Seattle, the Seattle area, you're pretty much up to 80 degrees. But anything farther southwest, you get into the 90s, and then you're already climbing up to 100 degrees. This is at 8 p.m., so it's going to be. I mean, I guess this would be afternoon for you guys too, but it's going to be very, very hot for everyone around the country. But for you guys in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and also parts of the coastal region of the Southeast, widespread 70s and maybe some upper 60s out here in the Northeast. But if I'll go back to the afternoon for you guys. So you see that pretty much everyone's going to be in the 70s and 80s. Down here in the Southeast, you guys will be ranging from upper 80s, then up into the mid 90s, and then maybe some of you could even hit 100 degrees today. But that's pretty much it for your temperatures. And we go on to our NAM 3KM model for, I believe this is North Central. Now we're just going to be talking about and explaining kind of, what's the deal with all this severe weather? Like, why is it happening at once? And so earlier when I showed you guys the alerts map, I did tell you guys about this new pattern change called the Ring of Fire. Now that is resulting in a lot more storms to move farther north because they want to move away from that big bunch of heat and like very, very dry conditions. So basically what they're going to be doing is they're just going to be moving right through this area, and that's why we all of a sudden had that dericho that moved through, causing extensive damage for widespread areas. And then today we have another severe weather event to talk about, but we're getting into 12 p.m. today, and you have some showers and thunderstorms out here across parts of Iowa and then also parts of uh, southern South Dakota. But these storms probably won't be, you know, intense until we get to like 3 p.m. tomorrow. So it looks like today you shouldn't have too much going on, although, you get into 3 p.m. today and you have, you have a high pressure, pretty strong high pressure center right over this bunch of storms. So, it's going to weaken a lot, but there is going to be a bunch of storms that's going to move through. I believe this is northeastern Colorado. So you guys in northeastern Colorado, parts of northwestern Kansas, and southwestern Nebraska, you guys got to watch out for some pretty strong storms tonight. These could be some hailmakers, and you do see this does have a pretty nice hook on it. So around 6 p.m., this one cell right here across the border of Nebraska, and then also northeastern Colorado. You guys got to watch out for that storm. That's going to be rotating. According to the NAM 3 cam model, and it's going to be dropping some pretty large hail out there. But this is we're just getting started today. This is we're already at 6 p.m. We're only at 6 p.m. today, so we still have some daylight left. But I mean, it's still going to be very stormy for everybody out here. But you know, the more intense storms it's definitely looking like it's going to be tomorrow because we get into tonight. Sorry guys, I keep clicking on the sounding accidentally. Um, but we get into tonight. This is 8 p.m. tonight. You're starting to see those more really, really intense and severe storms firing across the panhandle of Oklahoma, a lot of Kansas. So you guys in Kansas got to watch out, especially the northwestern edge of Kansas, parts of central and south central Nebraska. You guys should see at least one pretty intense storm, and then a lot of, areas just east of the Rockies. So if you are just like literally just east of the Rockies, there's gonna be one storm probably around 7, 8, 9 p.m. tonight. That's gonna be pretty intense. You could see some really really strong winds out there, potentially up to 70 miles an hour, and you will also see maybe some hail out there as well. But we get into 10 p.m. tonight, so these are the overnight hours of tonight, and you're really starting to see some strong storms moving. Looks like this is kind of close to St. Louis, so you guys in the St. Louis metro area, watch out for some pretty strong storms overnight tonight. But I mean, these look pretty intense. So I would say you guys in northeastern Missouri, you guys are gonna get probably the worst of these storms. But these are gonna drop. These are gonna drop some hail, some pretty big hail. So I would say up to ping pong size hail, maybe even a little more. But 2 inches to 3 inches is probably the max for tonight. But then this gets bended out into a damaging wind line, stretching all the way from south central and into southern Missouri, up into parts of western Illinois, and then maybe even parts of southern Iowa. We still have to watch and see how this plays out. But this is going to continue tracking throughout the night, so it's going to soak in as much moisture as it can. It might get slowed down though by the smoke and a lot of these drier conditions. But it could also be strong enough to push all that smoke out of the way and off to the east, which means that you guys in the northeast could see even more smoke by tomorrow. But this it's looking like that this is going to continue persisting through the unfavorable conditions. It will get ripped apart a little bit by some wind shear out there. When thunderstorms, when these clusters and groups of thunderstorms move through very unfavorable conditions with wind pushing against them, it's very very hard for them to continue with the size and shape that they've originated in, and so usually they don't grow in this period. You could see that they're almost getting completely ripped apart We're getting into July 1st. So this is, I believe, this Saturday. No, Sunday, I think. This is Sunday. So you're getting into Sunday morning, 9 a.m. Sunday. You're still seeing some moderately strong storms across parts of southern and central Ohio. These could definitely be severe, but mainly the wind threat's going to be the highest threat. And then they get a little bit more sophisticated, but more down here in parts of southern and south central Kentucky into parts of northern Tennessee. So, we could definitely see severe threats all around for the rest of this weekend. But we see another storm starting to take shape around here in southeastern Nebraska. So this could definitely, we could definitely see another round of severe weather start forming, and then you get more. You see those other storms around it starting to bubble up, and that's when you're going to sense the idea that another severe weather event is going to unfold. But we're getting to 5 p.m. your Sunday evening, and you're starting to see those very, very intense storms. This is now going to form a line of storms. So this is why we have that enhanced risk up. This is going to be very, very intense. So Sunday evening, Sunday night, it's going to be pretty bad for all of you, especially you guys, close to the St. Louis metro area. I think you guys will definitely see many, many severe storms out here, but pretty much, you just see up and down the border of Illinois and parts of Missouri. You just see so much storm activity and all these very, very intense looking storms. We're getting into late Sunday night. We're getting to 11 p.m. You're starting to see this more storminess enter parts of Indiana and parts of western Kentucky. So this is going to be a round 2 and round 3 for most of you guys out here. So, when I say round 2 and round 3, in from today to out to Sunday. So that's kind of the time period for the rounds of these storms. But it does carry on with this low pressure center as the storm before it, the storm system before it probably has pushed out most of the smoke. Now that this storm will have a little bit more favorable conditions to deal with. But we're getting into Monday, and it kind of gets ripped apart a little bit. Maybe it'll bend, twist and bend out here, and then it'll form a damaging wind line stretching from parts of northeastern Ohio into parts of southern Michigan. But I'm going to say that that's not going to be too severe, but it tries to form once again, and it does form some intense storms. Looks like it could drop a few inch size hail, but this will continue across parts of the Ohio Valley. It does get pretty intense, so this would be around 3 and 4 for most of you guys. So just a lot of severe weather to deal with. It's going to be pretty crazy in the next few days, and then eventually just the rest of next week. But what you got to do is just stay safe. Don't be scared. Be prepared, and just be ready for whatever storm system could come through. I'm just going to tell you guys right now that we are expecting a lot more severe activity out here in the next few days. But we got the storm prediction center, and we're just going to be looking at what their outlook for severe weather is. And for today, you're up to a slight risk, but it's a massive area. This is why we call this a severe thunderstorm outbreak. I don't want to say that this is a huge severe thunderstorm outbreak, just because the severe thunderstorms won't be that intense. But it's an outbreak for sure because, you just look at the numbers of the population. 43 million people, over 43 million people are included in just one, area for a risk of severe weather, which is that marginal risk. Then over 22 million for this slight risk. So hugely populated areas, many, many cities out here. When we go to the slight risk, you got Nashville, Tennessee, Kansas City, Missouri, Colorado Springs, Colorado, St. Louis, Missouri, and Aurora, Colorado. And pretty much all these other cities too. You got Springfield, Illinois, got Colby, Kansas, Nacook, um, uh, Nebraska, and then also parts of southern and southern Iowa and northern Missouri. So it's just everywhere you're gonna see at least a little chance for severe weather, but it's mainly gonna be closer to the central U.S. So if you're off to like the west, closer to the Ohio Valley, maybe if you're in parts of Indiana or like places like Louisville or Evansville, Kentucky. You could definitely still see that severe weather, but it's mainly going to be off to your west. But we go to the tornado threat for today. You're up to 5% risk, but it's for this area just east of the Rockies. So you definitely want to make sure that you are prepared for a tornado or two out here in this area. But no major populated areas in this risk. Only just over 21,000 people. So it's really not going to be too bad. You don't have that many people in the way of this. But the 2% risk, you got a little bit more of a populated area. You got just under 6.5 million people. But we go to the wind threat for today. You got a big area. Now this is probably going to be looking like the same as the slight risk for today. But you do see that we are up to a 15% risk for hail. We do have two areas of greater interest. We do have this area in parts of southern Illinois, stretching down into western Kentucky, and then we also do have this one off to the west. This is closer to the border of southeastern Colorado, and then also parts of western Kansas. So there's going to be two major areas for damaging wind gusts today. This, the original line of storms that's forming right now as we speak is going to be right here in this hatch risk, and then as it carries on off to the west, this is its secondary blow of damaging wind gusts. But we go to the hail threat for today, and you can see it's right in that area I was talking about, just along the border of Illinois and Missouri. You do see a hatch risk here of a 15% risk. Then same thing for this area closer off to the Rockies. Now this would be including parts of the Rockies. I think that this could include parts of the Rockies, but mainly off to the east. So yeah, it's just going to be a very, very intense round of storms for the next few days. And the population of this, it's not going to be that high. It might be a little high, especially for that 5% risk. Though you got almost 30 million people, and again, this is why we call it a outbreak. But for that 15% risk, a little bit over 6 million people. So we go to the day 2 threat. And once I get this to load, you can see that we're up to an enhanced risk, or let me go back to the categorical outlook, but we are up to an enhanced risk, and this is for some pretty major populated areas. This is our severe weather outbreak. This is what's going to be unfolding tomorrow. I do think that we could definitely see a moderate risk out here for just, precisely southern Illinois. So don't be surprised if you wake up tomorrow and you see an area in a moderate risk just out here in southern Illinois. So just east of St. Louis. But you go to for the enhanced risk, you got populated area of just over 6.5 million people, consisting of major cities like St. Louis, Missouri, Louisville, Kentucky, Evansville, Indiana, Bloomington, Indiana, and St. Charles, Missouri. So a lot of areas, a lot of people are going to be in the way of this, which is not a good sign because when you have a major storm system that moves through an area that just got hit by a really, really intense and devastating storm, it's not a good sign because people are not prepared yet. They've been damaged very, very badly, and more of those storms are going to be coming. But thank goodness the tornado threat only up to 2% risk. I really don't think we're going to see that many tornadoes out there, but you do have a 2% risk. This is for areas farther west, so closer to the Ohio Valley. Wind threat, you've got a 30% risk. So we could definitely see a 45% risk with this. I think it really depends on if we see that enhanced risk get upgraded to a moderate risk. Then I think we'll see that 45% risk appear right here in southern Illinois. But for now, you've got St. Louis, Missouri, Louisville, Kentucky, Evansville, Indiana, Bloomington, Indiana, and St. Charles, Missouri, all in that 30% risk. So a very, very highly populated area. Look at this, the 5% risk for winds tomorrow. You're up to 61 million people. Over 61.5 million people are in the way of this. This stretches all the way from Santa Fe and Albuquerque area in New Mexico all the way up into Burlington, uh, Vermont or New Hampshire. But this is just a huge, huge area for a very, very long amount of time. But I really do think if you're inside of the 15 or 30% risk, there's going to be some hail producer storm that's going to move through and it's going to produce at least ping pong ball size hail. But I do think it could also be a little bit reduced, a little bit down to like maybe penny sized or quarter sized hail. But we got the hail threat, or sorry, the damaging wind threat. What we just looked at, the wind threat's going to be very, very high. We, like I said earlier, I thought we were looking at the hail threat for a second there. That's why I said, that a lot of people are inside the 15% risk and 30% risk are going to see the hail threat. But for the wind threat, this is what we're looking at right now. So everyone inside this 30% risk and 15% risk could definitely see some very, very intense windstorms out here, especially across parts of southern Illinois and just east of the St. Louis kind of area. But you could definitely see wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour, maybe even 80 miles an hour. But we go to the hail threat. Like I said earlier, you could definitely see some ping pong ball size hail out here. This will definitely get it up to a 30% risk. I'd be very surprised if it doesn't. But I think it would be probably around the Louisville area and then including parts of western West Virginia. But I really do think that, everyone inside this 15% risk is going to get hit by a big time hail producer out here. It's going to be pretty, pretty nuts out there. But, you got Indianapolis, Indiana, Columbus, Ohio, Charlotte, North Carolina, Nashville, Tennessee, and St. Louis, Missouri. All of you guys are included in this. Now, this is going to be interesting because you see that, when you heard North Carolina, you realize, that this is actually pushing towards the coast. So maybe on the day 3, we could actually see some coastal severe storms out here in that area I was talking about way in the beginning of the update. But we go to the day 3 outlook, and you can see that we are up to a slight risk. Now, this is for areas farther south, including also parts of the Ohio Valley, but mainly, like I said, again, mainly farther south. But you do have a very, very slight, it's a very precise area in a marginal risk, including all of Long Island, New York City, Denver, Colorado, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Aurora, Colorado, and Newark, New Jersey. When you heard Colorado, that was just because there's another marginal risk out here, out west. But the slight risk, this is the main threat for tomorrow. Very, very intensely populated areas for both the marginal and slight risk. Got just under 40 million people in the way of the slight risk. They got Philadelphia, PA, Indianapolis, Indiana, Columbus, Ohio, Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C. But pretty much everyone is going to see some severe weather, but mainly off to the west out here. So we go to the probabilistics, and you are up to a 15% risk for that slight risk and a 5% for that marginal risk. So we're just going to be looking at quickly at the not the tropical Pacific, and right now we've got 2 hurricanes on our hands. We've got Hurricane Beatrice, and we also do have Hurricane Adrian. Yes, Hurricane Adrian. So obviously, Hurricane Adrian looks a lot more sophisticated and a lot more healthy out here. There isn't much wind shear out here. There is a little bit of wind shear out across, closer to, the Central Pacific and Hawaii. But for now, it looks like Adrian and Beatrice are both very healthy. Beatrice is actually scraping against the Mexico coastline, the western Mexico coastline, so it is going to lose some steam out there. But there are hurricane warnings out for this area. So you guys in western Mexico, get ready. Tonight is going to be very, very intense. You're going to see wind gusts that could reach 90, maybe even 100 miles an hour. So very, very intense hurricane out here. But really, Adrian is the main hurricane that we're going to be looking at. But luckily, it doesn't appear that it's going to be hitting any land or island out there. But just to look at the satellite, you do see the eye of Adrian looking very, very precise, which is a good sign, meaning that Adrian is healthy. And then we do have Beatrice out here. The eyeball is about to hit the coastline out here, so it's pretty much making landfall as we speak. But we're really gonna have to get into the later evening hours and afternoon hours of today to see kind of where exactly this is gonna make landfall. But we go to the National Hurricane Center, and we go to their Eastern Pacific outlook for today. So you got Hurricane Adrian right here. This is just west of this little area of northern Mexico, and then Beatrice right here across the western, in just I would say this would be just west of the western coastline of Mexico if it hasn't made landfall already. But Beatrice right now, it's just over a hurricane status. It's got max winds at 75 miles per hour. It's a 991 millibar storm, and it is moving northwest at 13 miles an hour. So it's definitely going to make landfall out here because there is an island or not an island, but there is an area here of Mexico that kind of stretches out into the Atlantic a little bit farther. So if this continues on its current path, the eye will definitely pass over this area out here. I'm not familiar with any of these cities out here, but some of you guys in Mexico could definitely get hit by this. Then you got Hurricane Adrian out here. And we look at the briefing right here. Adrian's slightly stronger now, so it's definitely gaining strength out here. But again, there is a little bit of wind shear out here in closer to the Central Pacific. But right now, Adrian looks pretty good. It's a 105 mile an hour hurricane, so maximum sustained winds of 90 knots, 105 miles an hour. But this is pretty impressive. This is the impressive part. 970 millibar low pressure storm, so a very, very healthy and very intense low pressure tropical cyclone out here. But it got very, very slow movement, only 7 miles per hour, but is moving parallel to Beatrice, so it's also moving northwest. So it could maybe take a name at the Western California coastline. It's way too early to tell, but based on its movement, it could definitely stay away from the wind shear out here and just continue on its current path, and could end up somewhere around here, then maybe take a turn inland. But we obviously have to see where that goes. But for Hurricane Beatrice, Beatrice just became a hurricane. Strong winds and heavy rain expected along portions of the southwestern coast of Mexico through Saturday. So we go to the warnings and cone static images, and just want to just take a look at this. So you can see that you've got hurricane warnings for this area along the coast of western Mexico, and the current path of it right now. So it's a hurricane right now. You've got tropical storm warnings out here, just south of where it recently made landfall in, and then you've got a tropical storm watch and a hurricane watch out here in little areas a little bit farther northward. But it does appear that this will it will still maintain hurricane strength as it scrapes along the western coastline. It doesn't look like it's going to make a direct impact on the western coast of Mexico, but it will tail off to the closer to the Central Pacific and maybe hit parts of northern Mexico in this little area stretching down into parts, into areas farther south. But this will actually eventually, probably by Sunday, some morning hours of Sunday, this will get reduced to a tropical storm and then eventually a tropical depression. But it could maintain hurricane strength all the way until tomorrow evening, or tomorrow night. So 7 p.m. tomorrow, you could still have hurricane strength out there. But we do see a lot of warnings and watches out here. We go to the full forecast. This is the full forecast already, and that's going to be pretty much it. So it's going to be all for today. So thank you so much for coming to watch, and just stay safe out there. So you got that severe weather and these hurricanes out there. It's a lot of weather to talk about. You got the new pattern change. It's a bunch of weather, and it's very, very intense. But all you got to do is just don't be scared, be prepared, and just be ready for whatever storm system comes your way. So thank you so much for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.